Hello my friends, welcome back to part 3 of this wonderful little tutorial here. Well, when I say little, it's quite big, isn't it? It's coming on quite nice so far, isn't it? Lovely cityscape, a tonal type of a painting, so very kind of dull colours, not quite black and white, a little bit of brown and soft colours going on in there, but coming on quite nicely, I think. Nice panoramic view of Cork City. All we have to do is this big tower in the centre, Shandon Bells, this iconic Shandon Bells tower coming up. It's a church, Shandon Bells Church. So we have this to paint. I'm going to zoom in on this for you and explain to you about getting a 3D effect with buildings. So you've a light side and a dark side, and creating that perspective. I'm going to show you how to do that. So I hope you enjoy the video. Let's have a bit of fun with this and finish the painting and maybe tidy up a couple of little bits here and there. It's raining, you can hear the rain outside. I think you can. It's very heavy. So I'm nice and warm in my studio here. Let's crack on. Come on, follow me along. If you wish, you can follow me along. Do comment. Do let me know what you think. If you've learned anything, I would love to hear. I'll be right back. Alright, here we are. This is it. I've zoomed in on this lovely tower. So if you just are looking to paint a building or something like that, and you'd like to kind of get some more inside knowledge about lights and shadows and all that kind of thing, this might help you along. So I'm going to just start with this main area here. It's like a pinky brown colour, I think, by looking at that. It is kind of a red bricky building anyway. So I'm going to try some magenta, and I'm going to try some burnt umber with a little white. So I have a kind of a pinky brown shade here. I might take a touch of black. So I'm going for this kind of a dull kind of a pinky brown colour. You see that? That's the colour I would say I need to get. Maybe a touch of Naples yellow in there, just to lighten it a shade. There we go. That little Naples yellow just lightens it ever so much, doesn't it? So let's just paint this in. And I'm not worried about getting lines absolutely perfect right away. You know, when you're painting buildings like this, you don't have to try and get it perfect the first time. You can just do your filling in. I generally just do my filling in and then I refine my lines afterwards with a pointy brush or something like that. Okay, that's pretty much what I do when I'm painting. So I have that section now. The front section is the very same here. Now it's slightly different in the sense that you can see on the photograph these buildings go right into this, don't they? They're a little bit lower down. Look, you could make it exactly the same. I could bring them lower down, we still could. There's no reason why we can't. But yes, absolutely, I may, just for the sake of keeping it the same, I may just bring the buildings down a bit more. You could just cut these off with something else, make something else out of them. We could make some houses or something out of them, and then just bring a new one coming off of that. We could do that by all means. So I'm going to add some black just in here. For me, painting buildings, it's all about tone. It's about getting that kind of tone as you go along. So I generally don't make things the very same colour all the way through. I'll add a little bit of hue here and there just to kind of break it up, and as it comes down it gets a little bit dirty, doesn't it, and all that kind of thing. So I'm just kind of popping a little bit on here and there, you see. And then I'm going to do this roof, which is just black, maybe with a touch of burnt sienna, and this roof cuts into the tower like so, and it comes off the tower right down to the corner like that. Okay, we just fill this in. It's quite a simple building to paint. It's in fact most buildings are quite easy to paint. They're just lots of lines, really. If you think about it like that, it's just a few lines. You know what I mean? I'm going to just kind of soften this now into the back of the building here, just ever so slightly, just to give us a bit of dirty colour on the wall, and I know there's another one here. You can't see it on the photograph, but there's another piece of the roof that comes out like this and it cuts back. All right, I know it's there because I've been down here many times. Sometimes you can't see what's on the photograph, and I'm just going to pop a little bit of light blue across this side of the roof like that. I might even pop a little bit here as well, again just to add a little bit of lightness to the roof as it goes in. You see, just like that, tiny little bit is all you need. Then we have the dark side of the building, which just comes down really and disappears into the trees and stuff underneath. So magenta, burnt umber and a bit of black for that, keeping it kind of pinky. So we have a nice dark colour coming down the back of that. This will all just kind of disappear down into trees anyway, so I'm not too worried about all of this. You see, it just disappears down into all the trees. And you notice I'm not using a small pointy brush for this either. I just like to go along with a thick brush and get all of this in. And maybe a little shadowy side just down there. So how's that coming on now so far? I think quite nice, isn't it? Quite nice indeed. And I suppose we better fix all of this here, should we? What I can do is maybe blend this out to make maybe one kind of a long building or something. So I'm going to try some Naples yellow with white and a little bit of brown. And I think, look, you know, for the sake of it, I think we should just fix it, should we? So this is a good lesson here now on how to fix something when you make a mistake. I'm just going to go over pretty much all of it like this. So I'm coming down to around here, okay? And I'll simply just put in the suggestion of other roofs. So a couple of different roofs over here. All right, that will just help everything sit down. When we go to do the other side in a moment, you'll see what I mean. So we have most of that kind of blocked out now, don't we? I'm then going to just get some black and a bit of magenta. I'm going to put in a new roof. Let's see now, can we do this right? So I'm going to come here and then come back like this, and it comes over then, doesn't it? Comes over like that, and it comes down around here, doesn't it? So I simply just follow what I see. That's all I'm doing. Just going to follow what I see. And this is only meant to be an impression anyway, so I'm not going to try and make this absolutely perfect. And the customer doesn't want it perfect either. The customer said just a nice loose impression of the scene. It doesn't have to be every detail showing absolutely perfect on the painting, you know. That's something that you should think about. You don't have to make everything absolutely spot on and perfect, do you? So we have a new building in place. There we go. A nice new building, isn't that? You see how easy that was now? It was, you know, it wasn't too overly complicated, I don't think. I don't think so anyway. And I'm going to get some white. So a little bit of white, a little bit of Naples yellow. I'm just going to come down here like this with my new front of my building. And it's just a case of going along and filling everything back in. I just let it disappear down like this. I think that's probably the easiest way to do it. Now, a little bit of white, a little bit of blue. And I'm going to lighten it along here. Just a bit. And then just start adding little bits of colour as I go along. So, a little bit of a pinky shade. You could take a bit of burnt sienna, add a touch of burnt sienna in on this side as well. I'm just messing around with colours now, adding bits and pieces of colour into all of this. And we come around where it turns, and then it goes off the opposite way, doesn't it? Goes off like this. Now, let me just clean my brush. I'm going to make a nice shadowy colour for this. I'm going to go with a bit of blue, magenta, and a little white. I'm going to make a nice little shadowy shade for this side. So we have created a new building, so you see now how you can change things. You don't have to, you know, when you paint something, don't think that it's finished, you can't fix it, because as you can see, you can fix anything with a bit of paint. You know what I mean? Absolutely. So, we have a new building in place. Then I'm just going to take a small pointy brush and just again add a few details. The suggestion of a few details. Okay? Just a hint. We have a nice little piece up there. Little windows. We get a bit of black and we could just pop suggestion of, it just looks like these kinds of lines on the building, doesn't it? That's all it is. A couple of loose lines. We can suggest a few little windows as well if we like. Just by putting a few little marks on the building. Okay, you see how fast that just comes together? Just a couple of marks, nothing else. Now, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do pretty much the same with this. Just suggest a couple of lines coming down. And again, a few suggestion of windows. And you can see just everything is just very loose. A very loose kind of brush stroke. Okay. And I just define some of the lines then a little better with the pointy brush. And I know we're kind of going on a bit here now. We were supposed to be painting this tower, but I know if I leave this, I'm just going to forget completely about it and it won't look right. So I just wanted to get this done properly before I continue on, you know what I mean? So I'm just going to put little small details in some of these. Small details, look. Just little suggestions again, that's all. And it all just gives you an impression of there being detail there. You know what I mean? Okay, I'm leaving it at that. I'm going to move on and finish this. I'm going to go with a nice dark brown for the back of this one here. So I'm going to take a kind of a browny grey, some magenta, a little black, and a touch of burnt umber. And I think that should be a darker shade of what we have. Yes, that's okay. Now when you're painting these lines to get the perspective, okay, I'm going to bring the back line down slightly. You see that? So it falls backwards ever so slightly. And that gives you some perspective on the building. So it just shows you, it indicates the back side of the building which is turned away from you. Alright, there we go. So that's the dark side, and you can kind of, again, add little tones through it here and there, just to kind of mix it up. I don't want it to be all just kind of one flat colour, if you know what I mean. So I want to kind of add little bits of darkness popping through here and there. I find it just makes it a bit more natural. There's a little break across here, which I'm going to just put darker, slightly darker. And I'm going to darken it as well across here, just where it's kind of dirty down towards the end of the building. I'll just dab it and maybe just flick it up here and there. Okay, just adds a little bit of depth to it. Then we're moving on to the top sections, which are, in reality, they're a light grey, but I can put them in a light grey now because of this colour of this scene. So I'm going to go with a kind of a light mauve first, and we can kind of tone them down then after that. Then I'll go with a darker shade for the back. And the higher up the building, the sharper the angle will get. So these angles up here are going to get quite sharp, you see. Does that make sense? And that gives you a better perspective up high on a building. So you can kind of see what I mean now, slightly, can't you? You can kind of make out what I was trying to get at with the perspective. Okay? So, let's take a look. I'm going to go to a small brush and I'm going to just put some details in, a couple of small details. I am going to zoom in slightly as well, so you can see a bit better. Now, I'm going to take some dark grey. I'm going to get some brown and a bit of black, and I'm going to start putting in some of the details. We've 1, 2, and then a little dot up on top. And then for the back side, I'm going to go darker. So everything that's in shadow will be darker. So the shadowy side of the building will have darker values, okay? Just remember that. And then I'm just going to get a bit of black and I'm going to sort of just put a few little lines here and there, just as little suggestions. So we go across here, for example, just to kind of cut them off. We'll put one in under here, like that. We have another one here. Now we also have little pieces on the edges up here. I don't know what they are, they're just like little, they're ornamental, okay, they're little ornaments. Once I have that done, I'm going to take a little bit of white and Naples yellow, and there is some very bright surrounds on these. And you see how I'm just not being too careful? I'm making it very loose because, yes, it is only a suggestion. Just keep telling yourself it's only a suggestion, all right? Because if you start concentrating on going into loads of details and all that kind of stuff, it becomes very tricky and very stressful, I'll be very honest. You start getting very stressed out if you start worrying about tiny, tiny little details. So you have to try and, you have to keep trying to separate the fact that it's just an impression you want to get and not you know, you're not painting lots and lots and lots of details. So you have to keep, now that's a little bit too much of an angle, you see that? I'm going to rub that out, all right? And I'm going to go slightly flatter. So you can see now that's a little bit better, isn't it? So yes, try and separate details from impression. Now I'm suggesting little cornerstones, look, just with the tip of my brush. Because there is little cornerstones on these. Light grey cornerstones, but I'm just going to put a couple of dabs, look, a few dabs with the brush. Just to give it a little bit of an impression, again, impression, think impression. Right, so how are we looking? Yeah, it's not too bad now, is it? We have a clock. Now, the four-faced lyre. We have 4 clocks. So you can see one here. Let's paint in the clock. I'll go just with a black first. And this is the detail that I want to get right. Because this is in essence the point of this painting. This is what it's for. And at the back then it's going to be slightly oblong. You see what I mean? Like an egg. Because it's foreshortened, you can't really make out a full circle. So it just becomes foreshortened. You see what I mean? Then we have another dark spot over that. And I will just try and get the shapes of these right. And we've one at the back. And then a little light surround around those. Now this may not be your cup of tea in terms of painting, but you might just enjoy watching, you know what I mean? Let's get some Naples yellow and put in, because I know all these hands and stuff, they're all gold. So I'm just going to put in little dots for the numbers, look. This is so far away you're not going to see it. And we put in the hands like that. Do the same on the other one. Very lightly, look. And a different time. It has to be a different time on the back of the clock, because no 2 clocks are exactly the same time. And let's see, now we're going quite well, aren't we? Up here we have a little dot and a dot there. I must paint the roof. We have a nice light grey up on the roof as well, the very tip. And I'm just going to fix 1 or 2 little lines up there. And I don't know if you can see it on the photograph, but we have a little fish up on the top of this. I'm going to put a spire. With a ball, little ball. Okay. And then we have a gold fish. Now, I just give a tiny impression of a fish, all right? There we go. A very small impression. I'm going to zoom in and show you. So you can see a very small fish up on top, okay? It's tiny. There we go. Now, how's this all looking? I wouldn't say it's too bad at all, is it? Right, I must finish a couple of little details here and there. I'm just going to zoom back slightly for you. I have a few little lines here and there. So one here, for example. And we have this coming down the back here. Then we'll just fix the roof. You know, this is just a nice little tonal example for you. If you'd like to try it, just try it. All right. Don't be afraid to try it. I'll just fix this area here, and I'll blend this area as well. Just get rid of that. You see, just a bit of a blend is all we need. And I'm going to just add a few suggestions of maybe rooftops or something like that back over here. Little lines here and there, again, just to suggest little bits and pieces. Now, my friends, that is almost done. I could give the effect of some brickwork if I wanted to. Let me try it. You can give the effect of little bits of brickwork, look, just by dabbing a tiny bit of light colour here and there over that. It's just giving the impression of that, you know, it is bricks, that there is actually bricks on the wall, but it's a very slight impression, you see what I mean? Tiny, tiny little impression. That's all it needs to be. And I also have, there's a hint of a window as well. Here. Tiny hint. I know there's a window there, so I'll just put a tiny hint of it in like that. And after this, we are pretty good. I'm going to tidy up the bottom here. So I really just want to kind of soften all that dark area in to that church, okay? I'm just going to put some bushes and trees and stuff like that all in along here and let them kind of disappear off. Then pop a little, oh yeah, one thing I forgot, look, we've a lot of mist coming up here, don't we? We need to get that in. I want to put that mist in. Take a bit of blue and a bit of white. I know there's a Heineken factory just down here underneath us, and they produce the Heineken beer, and there's always smoke coming from the factory like this type of smoke. It's always there. So I'm going to put some of that in. That's going to look quite nice now, actually. I'm going to just put a lot of that in around here. Because anyone from Cork now who know will look at this and say, yes, that's right. There's always this big bunch of smoke coming from down here. It's always there from that factory. So I'm going to just make sure I get that in. I'm just going to taper it off and leave it soften away. But it needs to be nice and white. So this is all, this is a really great way for you to try and add a bit of depth into your painting, a bit of mood, just always, if you're worried about having to paint too much detail and stuff like that, always just add a little bit of fog or mist into the painting. It really makes such a difference. And I come down here and pop a bit across here as well. So you see I'm kind of sitting everything back down now into a lovely fog down at the base of the painting. And how about that? That looks quite nice, doesn't it? And perhaps just here I'll add the impression of just maybe one or two little bits and pieces popping up. So maybe there's one or two poles or something like that, with lights on them. It could be anything, just kind of showing through just showing through the mist. Just a little suggestion, that's all. All right, you don't have to try and make them look like anything in particular. It could be anything. Look, just little marks with your brush. That's all. And you can just soften them in with your finger. It just makes it look busy. And that's the whole point of this, really, is just to make it look busy, like there's a lot going on. And there's a lot going on, but I don't want to distract from this area. So that's why I kept kind of everything else simple, and then put a nice bit of detail in this area just here. That's the reason. I want this to be the focal point, basically. And how was that? Now I have to say I'm very happy with how that has turned out. I'm very, very happy. I do just want to bring out this church over here just that little bit more, because it's a very important church. Again, it's another landmark of Cork City. If you're ever visiting Cork City, you will see this church standing proud. So I do want to really bring it out. And it's built in the same stone they use for the Shandon Bells Tower, that kind of red brick, pinky kind of a stone. They use the very same brick, so it's similar in colour. And I'm just going to soften it back down and then pop. Again, bit of white down the sides. So it's there, it's just showing through. So I'm pretty happy, my friends. I'm almost going to call this finished. I don't see any reason to have to keep going and carrying on with this. I'm pretty happy. There always comes a point in painting when you feel like you have to keep going and adding bits of this and bits of that. There's always that point in painting. You have to be very careful, because you can very easily add too much to something. So that's what I would say to you. Be very careful and try not to add too much into your painting, and know when to stop. Because every single brush stroke you put on your painting is going to make a difference. It's going to add something to the painting, so just bear that in mind, okay? Just be careful not to go overboard too much. So I'm just going to keep adding a bit of more of this lovely white down here now. I just really want to get that in. It's really lovely. It's just this beautiful fuzzy kind of a cloudy thing down here. And I'm actually going to go right across the front of this and up here as well. It's very easy to do. Just get a flat brush, an old worn flat brush, and around in little circles, and that gives you that really lovely. I'm going to go up here as well. Look right up into the sky. And there we go. One nice big cloudy area. Maybe put a small bit here, going up as well. Taper it off. And that's it. My friends, I'm finished. I'm going to call this done and say to you, I hope you've enjoyed watching me. I'm pretty happy with how this has turned out. Let me go right back here now so you can see the painting in full. And there we are. So, what do we think of that, my friends? Let me just zoom in here. That's it. Perfect. Now, we are done. I do have a lovely white frame for this. I will frame it. I will show you once it's framed. I think that's probably the best thing to do. I'll put a post up once it's finished and framed, just to show you what it looks like. I'm dabbling again now, you see. I'm going at it just to darken little bits down here. I'm probably better off just leaving it, aren't I? But I just want to get a few impressions of trees and stuff down here. I know there's lots of trees down here in the foreground as well, you see. And maybe just get one or two here. Okay. And that's it. One more tree here. And I really have to stop then, because I'm afraid in case I make a mess. And that's it. My friends, thank you so much for joining me. I really mean that. I'll just fix this here. Go right up here. And that's it. I'll see you very soon. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think about that. I know it's something different. There was a lot of kind of detail, so to speak. It wasn't a typical landscape with sunset colours and clouds and all of that kind of thing. But I do sometimes like to try these things, you know, these kind of tonal landscapes, let's call them. There's not too much colour in them, but the colours are very similar in values. So it's almost like a tonal painting. I'm quite happy with that. I might just fade a few things back into the distance and whatnot, but do try something like this. If you're living somewhere near a big city, just take a nice photograph overlooking the city and just try it like that. Just give impressions of buildings and just little impressions of windows. Just keep it simple. Sometimes that's best, I think. Or you could spend, hours and hours painting windows. It's up to yourself, whatever you prefer. That's just my take on it. That's how I like to paint these types of paintings. I hope you've enjoyed watching. Thank you so much for subscribing if you have done so. And if you haven't, please do. Thank you so much for your support. I'll be back next week with another tutorial. Thank you so much, my friends. Happy painting and keep it simple.